The frontier station floated in space near a dying star. It was a mess of metal rooms and docking areas stuck together over many years. Traders came here from all over the galaxy. Smugglers came too. So did explorers looking for their next adventure. Nobody asked too many questions at Frontier Station. That was why people liked it. Ryan Cooper walked through the station's main corridor with his hands in his pockets. He was a human cargo hauler, which meant he flew a ship and moved things from one place to another for money. His ship was called the Wanderer. It was old but reliable. Ryan had been flying cargo runs for 5 years now, ever since he left Earth. He was good at his job. People trusted him to get their cargo where it needed to go, even if that cargo was a little illegal. The cantina was Ryan's favorite place on the station. It was dark and noisy, filled with aliens of every type. Some had scales, some had fur, some looked like walking plants. Ryan didn't care what species anyone was. If they had cargo that needed moving and could pay, he would work with them. He sat down at his usual table and ordered a drink from the bartender, a four-armed creature whose species Ryan had never bothered to learn. Across the cantina, Lyra watched the human. She was Kalari, which meant her skin was blue and changed colors slightly depending on her mood. Right now it showed hints of purple, which meant she was curious. Lyra was young for her species, only 20 standard years old. This was her first real job away from her home planet. She was supposed to study different alien species for the Galactic Research Council. Her specialty was predators. Lyra had been taught that humans were strange. Her professors back home said humans were unpredictable. They said humans came from a dangerous world, and that made them different from other species. Most aliens in the galaxy evolved on safe planets with easy climates and few predators. Humans did not. Earth was classified as a death world, meaning it was so dangerous that most species would die there within hours. She watched Ryan laugh with a group of Vraxian merchants. The Vraxians were huge, nearly 8 feet tall with thick muscles and armored skin. Ryan was average height for a human, maybe 5 feet 10 inches. He looked small next to the Vraxians. But he didn't act small. He joked with them like they were old friends. He gestured with his hands when he talked. He smiled easily. The Vraxians seemed to like him. Lyra knew she should stay away. Her research protocol said to observe humans from a distance. Don't engage directly unless necessary. Humans are friendly but can be dangerous if provoked. She had read all the warnings. But something about this human made her curious. Maybe it was the way he moved through the cantina like he belonged there. Maybe it was the easy way he talked to species that could kill him with one hand. Ryan looked up and caught her staring. Their eyes met across the room. He smiled and raised his glass to her in greeting. It was a simple gesture, friendly, non-threatening. Lyra felt her skin shift to a lighter blue, showing surprise. Before she could think about it too much, she stood up and walked over to his table. Up close, Ryan looked different than she expected. Humans had 2 eyes, which seemed strange to her. Most species had at least 3. His skin was tan, darker than the pale humans she had seen in pictures. He had short brown hair and dark eyes. There were small lines around his eyes from smiling. He looked tired but friendly. Ryan gestured to the empty chair across from him. She sat down carefully, keeping her research pad close. He introduced himself and asked if she was new to the station. She explained that she was a xenobiology student studying predator species in the sector. Ryan seemed genuinely interested. He asked good questions about her research. He knew more about alien biology than she expected from a cargo hauler. They talked for hours. Ryan told her about the outer colonies he had visited. He described planets she had only read about in textbooks. He talked about the strange creatures he had seen, the dangerous situations he had survived, the close calls he had experienced. He made it all sound normal, like these things happened to everyone. Lyra realized that for Ryan they probably did. Ryan asked about her research plans. She told him she needed to get to the Thorian Nebula. It was 3 weeks away by standard transport. She had been trying to find a ship for 2 days now. Most captains wanted too much money. Others didn't want to go that far into dangerous territory. The Thorian Nebula had a reputation. Strange things lived there. Ships sometimes didn't come back. Ryan thought about it for a moment. Then he offered to take her. His rates were fair, half the price other captains had quoted. The Wanderer could make the trip in less than a week if the hyperspace lanes were clear. He said he had been meaning to check out that sector anyway. There might be salvage opportunities. Lyra hesitated. All her training said this was a bad idea. Don't travel alone with a human. Don't put yourself in a situation where you depend on them for survival. Humans are unpredictable, but Ryan didn't seem unpredictable. He seemed practical and straightforward. He told her exactly what the trip would cost. He showed her pictures of his ship on his data pad. He even gave her references from previous clients. More than that, Lyra needed to get to the nebula. Her research grant only covered 6 months. She had already used 2 months just getting to Frontier Station. If she waited for a cheaper option or a safer captain, she might run out of time. Ryan's offer was the best she would get. She made her decision and accepted. They met at the docking bay the next morning. The Wanderer was smaller than Lyra expected. It was a light freighter, designed for cargo runs rather than passengers. The hull was scarred from years of use. Some of the paint had worn off. But the engines looked good, and the system seemed to work fine. Ryan gave her a quick tour of the ship. There were 3 main areas. The cockpit was up front, filled with controls and displays. The cargo hold took up most of the ship's interior. It was currently empty except for some secured crates. Then there was a small living area with a kitchenette, 2 sleeping bunks, and a tiny bathroom. Ryan said she could have the top bunk. He would sleep in the lower one or in the cockpit if she wanted more privacy. The ship also had a laboratory space. Ryan had installed it himself. It wasn't fancy, but it had the basic equipment Lyra would need for her research: a microscope, sample containers, a small computer terminal connected to the ship's main database. He said previous passengers had been scientists too. They appreciated having a place to work during long trips. Lyra set up her equipment while Ryan prepared the ship for departure. She heard him talking to station control over the radio. His voice was calm and professional. He went through all the pre-flight checks without rushing. Everything seemed normal and routine. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. The Wanderer pulled away from the station smoothly. Through the small window in the lab, Lyra watched Frontier Station grow smaller behind them. Soon they would jump to hyperspace and begin the journey to the Thorian Nebula. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was really happening. She was traveling alone with a human to one of the most dangerous regions in the sector. Ryan's voice came over the intercom. They would jump in 5 minutes. She should make sure everything was secured. Lyra checked her equipment one more time. Everything was locked down. She sat in the small chair bolted to the lab floor and waited. The jump to hyperspace felt like falling and flying at the same time. Then everything settled and they were traveling faster than light toward their destination. For the first time since leaving her home planet, Lyra felt like her real research was about to begin. She didn't know it yet, but this trip would teach her more about predators than any textbook ever could, and the most important lesson would have nothing to do with the creature she came to study. The first 3 days on the Wanderer passed quietly. Lyra spent most of her time in the small laboratory, reviewing her research notes and preparing for the work ahead. Ryan stayed in the cockpit piloting them through hyperspace. Sometimes he would come back to the living area to eat or sleep. They developed a comfortable routine. What surprised Lyra most was Ryan's eating habits. She had brought her own food for the trip, standard Kalari nutrition paste that provided everything her body needed. Ryan's food was different. He ate meat, real animal meat. He had containers of dried strips that he called jerky. He said it came from animals on Earth, cows, pigs, something called turkey. The smell made Lyra's stomach turn. Most species in the galaxy didn't eat meat. It wasn't impossible, but it was rare. Evolution had pushed most intelligent species toward plant-based diets. Easier to digest, safer, less chance of disease or parasites. But humans were different. Humans were omnivores, which meant they ate both plants and animals. Ryan seemed to prefer meat. On the 4th day, the ship's sensors picked up something unusual. Ryan called Lyra to the cockpit. He pointed at a screen showing a large energy signature on a nearby moon. It was strong and steady, which meant something artificial. Maybe a crashed ship. Maybe old equipment left behind by miners or explorers. Ryan wanted to check it out. Lyra wasn't sure this was a good idea. They were on a schedule. But Ryan explained that salvage was part of how he made money. If there was valuable equipment down there, they could sell it. He promised it wouldn't take long. Just a quick look around. If they didn't find anything good in an hour, they would leave. Lyra agreed reluctantly. The moon was small and gray with almost no atmosphere. Ryan landed the Wanderer on a flat area near the energy signature. They put on environment suits before going outside. The suits would provide air and protect them from the cold. Ryan also brought a plasma pistol. Just in case, he said. Lyra brought her scanner and sample containers. Walking on the moon felt strange. The gravity was low, so every step bounced slightly. Gray dust covered everything. In the distance, Lyra could see the wreckage Ryan had detected. It was definitely a ship, or what was left of one. The hull was torn open. Parts were scattered across a wide area. Whatever happened here had been violent. They approached carefully. Ryan moved ahead, his pistol ready. Lyra followed, scanning the wreckage with her instruments. The ship had been here for a while. Maybe a year. The damage looked like it came from a crash landing. The emergency systems had activated but failed. Everyone on board probably died on impact. Then Lyra's scanner started beeping. Loud and urgent. She looked at the display and felt her blood go cold. The readings showed biological activity. Something alive. Something big. Her scanner identified it immediately. A Vorath stalker. She grabbed Ryan's arm hard enough to hurt through the suit. Her translator worked overtime to convert her panicked words into something he could understand. There was a Vorath here. They needed to leave. Right now, immediately, before it found them. Ryan's expression didn't change much. He raised his pistol and moved to put himself between Lyra and the wreckage. He asked where the creature was. Lyra checked her scanner. Close, very close. Maybe 30 meters away, inside the largest piece of wreckage. Vorath stalkers were famous throughout the galaxy. They were apex predators from one of the worst death worlds ever discovered. Their home planet had 10 times the gravity of Earth. The atmosphere was toxic. The temperature extremes would kill most species in seconds. And the Vorath had evolved to be perfect killers in that environment. An adult Vorath stood 8 feet tall on 6 legs. Their bodies were covered in armored scales that could stop most weapons. They had 6 eyes that saw in multiple spectrums. Their claws were designed to cut through metal. And their bite delivered venom so powerful that one drop could kill an elephant-sized creature in minutes. They were intelligent, too. Pack hunters who used strategy and worked together. This one was alone, which meant the crashed ship had been transporting it. Someone had been trying to move a Vorath in stasis. The crash must have broken the stasis pod. Now it was awake. And probably very hungry. The creature emerged from behind a section of hull. Lyra saw it and stopped breathing. It was bigger than the pictures in her textbooks. More real, more terrifying. Every part of it was built for killing. The armored scales gleamed in the moonlight. The 6 eyes glowed a soft red. When it moved, muscles rippled under the armor. It saw them immediately. Lyra wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Her species had no natural predators. The Kalari had evolved on a safe world with plenty of food and few dangers. They had never needed to develop fight or flight responses. When faced with danger, most Kalari just froze. That's what Lyra did now. She stood completely still, unable to move, unable to think, just watching the monster approach. Ryan stepped forward. The movement was smooth and controlled. No panic, no fear, just calm action. He raised his plasma pistol and took aim. The Vorath hissed, a sound like steam escaping from a broken pipe. It lowered its body, ready to spring forward. The distance between them was maybe 20 meters now. What happened next took 3 seconds. Maybe less. Lyra would replay those 3 seconds in her mind thousands of times over the coming years. She would study every detail. She would never fully understand how it was possible. Ryan fired 3 times. 3 quick shots, one after another. The first shot hit the Vorath's primary eye cluster. The second hit its throat, right at the weak point where the armor plates didn't quite meet. The third shot punched through the gap between the neck and torso, straight into whatever passed for the creature's heart. The Vorath was dead before it hit the ground. Its nervous system overloaded. Its body stopped functioning. The most dangerous predator in known space, killed in 3 seconds by a human cargo hauler. Lyra stared at the corpse, then at Ryan, then back at the corpse. Her mind couldn't process what just happened. The Vorath was supposed to be unkillable. Entire military units had been destroyed trying to stop one. There were stories of entire colonies being evacuated because a Vorath was spotted 10 light-years away. And Ryan had just killed one like it was nothing. Ryan walked over to the body carefully. He kept his pistol pointed at it, making sure it was really dead. He kicked one of the legs gently. No response. He nodded to himself and holstered his weapon. Then he turned to Lyra and asked if she was okay. Was she okay? Lyra didn't know how to answer that. She had just watched something impossible. She felt like the universe had broken some fundamental rule right in front of her. She managed to nod. Her voice wouldn't work. Her legs felt weak. Ryan looked at the Vorath corpse thoughtfully. Then he said something that made Lyra's confusion even worse. He said they should bring it back to the ship. The meat would be good. Vorath tasted interesting. He'd had it once before at a station in the Outer Rim. Lyra found her voice. She asked if he was joking. He had to be joking. Nobody ate Vorath meat. The venom alone would kill anything that tried. The flesh was toxic. Even touching a dead Vorath with bare hands could cause serious injury. Ryan shrugged. He said human digestive systems were pretty tough. The venom broke down when cooked. He pulled a large knife from his belt and started examining the creature, looking for the best place to start cutting. Lyra watched in horror as he began field dressing the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, like it was a deer. An hour later, they were back on the Wanderer. The cargo hold now contained several large pieces of Vorath meat, carefully wrapped and stored. Ryan was whistling while he worked. Lyra sat in the laboratory, her hands shaking, trying to write notes about what she had witnessed. She couldn't find the words. How do you describe watching a human kill and butcher a Vorath like it was normal? Like it was just another day? The ship lifted off from the moon. Ryan set course back to their original route. Soon they would resume the journey to the Thorian Nebula. But Lyra knew nothing would be the same. She had learned something today. Something that changed everything she thought she knew about humans. They weren't just different. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. The Wanderer jumped back into hyperspace. Everything returned to normal, except nothing felt normal to Lyra anymore. She sat in her laboratory trying to focus on her research notes, but her mind kept going back to the Vorath, the way Ryan killed it so easily, the way he butchered it like it was nothing special, the way he smiled while doing it. She pulled up files on Vorath biology. The venom was one of the most toxic substances known to science. A single drop could kill a full-grown Vraxian in under 5 minutes. The meat itself contained dozens of compounds that would destroy the internal organs of most species. Even the blood was dangerous. Scientists who studied Vorath wore full protective gear and worked in sealed environments. And Ryan touched it with his bare hands, cut it with a regular knife, wrapped the meat in standard storage materials. He treated the galaxy's deadliest predator like a simple animal, which Lyra realized was exactly what it was to him, just another animal. Later that day, Ryan came to the laboratory. He said he was going to cook dinner in a couple hours. Did she want some? He was planning to grill the Vorath steaks. They would taste pretty good with some of his earth spices. Lyra just stared at him. She asked if he was serious. He was actually going to eat that thing? Ryan looked confused by her reaction. Sure, why not? The meat was fresh. Well, relatively fresh. He'd frozen it properly. It would cook up fine. Had she never had Vorath before? She explained very carefully that Vorath meat was toxic. Deadly. It would kill him. The venom would stop his heart. The other compounds would shut down his liver and kidneys. Even if he somehow survived the initial poisoning, the long-term damage would be severe. No rational being ate Vorath meat. It was suicide. Ryan listened to her whole explanation. Then he smiled and said human biology was different. They could eat a lot of things that other species couldn't. Cooking the meat would break down most of the venom. His stomach acid would handle the rest. He'd eaten Vorath twice before. Once at a station out past the Vega sector. Once on a planet where the locals hunted them for sport. Both times he was fine. Lyra didn't know what to say to that. She pulled up more files. She showed him chemical analyses of Vorath venom. She showed him medical reports from species that had been exposed to it. She showed him everything she could find that proved how dangerous this was. Ryan looked at all of it politely. Then he said he appreciated her concern, but he'd be okay. He offered again to cook some for her. She could try just a small piece. She refused, obviously, absolutely not. She would stick to her nutrition paste. Ryan shrugged and said the offer stood if she changed her mind. Then he left to prepare dinner. 2 hours later, Lyra smelled something strange. It was sharp and strong, making her eyes water. The smell came from the living area. She left her laboratory and found Ryan at the small cooking station. He had set up a portable grill. On it were 3 large steaks, sizzling and smoking. The meat was dark purple, almost black. Fat dripped from it, causing small flares when it hit the heating element. Ryan hummed to himself while he cooked. He used tongs to flip the steaks. He sprinkled things on them from small containers. Salt probably, maybe pepper. Other spices she didn't recognize. He moved around the small kitchen area with practiced ease. Like he had done this 1,000 times before. Which he probably had. Lyra couldn't look away. This was insane. This was impossible. But it was happening right in front of her. She sat down at the small table, still clutching her nutrition paste container. She watched Ryan cook the most dangerous meat in the galaxy like he was making a regular meal. After 10 minutes, Ryan declared the steaks done. He put them on plates. The meat was charred on the outside but still purple inside. Juice leaked from where he cut into it to check. He brought his plate to the table and sat across from Lyra. He looked at his meal with satisfaction. Then he picked up his knife and fork. Lyra watched him cut the first piece. The meat was thick and dense. It took effort to cut through. Ryan brought the piece to his mouth. He chewed slowly, his expression thoughtful. He swallowed. Then he nodded. Not bad. A little tougher than the last one I had, but good flavor. Kind of gamey. Reminds me of wild boar. He took another bite. Then another. He ate like it was completely normal. Like this was just dinner on a Tuesday. Not the flesh of a creature that haunted the nightmares of entire civilizations. Not meat that should kill him within minutes. Just food. Lyra realized her mouth was hanging open. She closed it. She tried to say something. Words failed her. How was this possible? How was he still alive? How was he not writhing on the floor in agony? Ryan ate 3 more bites before he noticed her staring. He asked if she was okay. She looked pale. Well, paler than usual for a Kalari. Was the smell bothering her? He could open a window. Not that there were windows in space, but he could turn on extra ventilation. Lyra finally found her voice. How was he not dead? How could he eat that? How was his body processing toxins that would kill her entire family in seconds? Ryan set down his fork. He thought about the question seriously. Then he explained. Humans evolved on Earth. Earth was what the galaxy classified as a Class 12 death world. That was one of the highest danger ratings possible. The planet was covered with things trying to kill you. Poisonous plants, venomous animals, diseases, parasites, predators everywhere. To survive on Earth, humans developed really good immune systems and really tough digestive systems. They could eat foods that would poison other species. Their livers could filter out toxins that would kill most aliens. Their stomach acid was strong enough to break down almost anything organic. It was just how they evolved. Adaptation. He picked up his fork again and cut another piece of vorath. This is actually pretty mild compared to some Earth foods. Have you heard of pufferfish? It's a fish from Earth that's so poisonous it can kill you if it's prepared wrong, but humans eat it anyway. They think it's a delicacy. Or hot peppers. Humans bred plants to be more painful to eat, then eat them for fun. Earth food is weird. Lyra felt like reality was breaking. Humans ate poison fish on purpose? They made plants hurt more so they could enjoy eating them? What kind of species does that? Ryan finished his first steak and started on the second. The crazy species, apparently. But it works out pretty well in space. Human cargo haulers can eat a wider variety of foods than most species. That means they can travel longer without resupply. Makes them good at long-haul jobs. He offered her a bite one more time. She refused again. He shrugged and kept eating. Lyra sat there, her nutrition paste forgotten, watching a human consume the unconsumed, watching him treat the galaxy's greatest predator as lunch, watching him smile while he did it. After he finished eating, Ryan cleaned up the kitchen area. He put the leftover meat in the freezer for later. He washed his dishes. He wiped down the grill. Normal after-dinner cleanup. Like nothing unusual had happened. Like he hadn't just done something that would terrify every species in the galaxy if they knew about it. That night, Lyra couldn't sleep. She lay in her bunk staring at the ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ryan eating that purple meat. Saw him smile. Saw him treating the impossible as ordinary. She realized something important. Something that changed how she saw everything. Humans weren't just different from other species. They came from a world so dangerous that it made the rest of the galaxy seem safe by comparison. They looked at things that terrified others and saw opportunities. They looked at deadly predators and saw dinner. They had spent millions of years learning to survive in conditions that would kill most species instantly. And now they were in space. Now they were exploring the galaxy. Now they were showing everyone else what it meant to come from a real death world. Lyra felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. The galaxy had no idea what humans really were, what they were capable of, what they considered normal. She had come on this trip to study predators. She thought she would learn about dangerous creatures in the Thorian Nebula, but she was learning something far more important. She was learning about the most successful predator species in the galaxy, and she was sharing a ship with one. Lyra spent the next day in the laboratory, but she wasn't working on her original research. Instead, she accessed every database file she could find about Earth and humans. What she discovered was both amazing and terrifying. Earth's gravity was nearly twice what the Kalari homeworld had. Most species would struggle to even stand up on Earth. Their bones would feel the pressure. Their muscles would tire quickly. But humans evolved in that gravity. They were built for it. That explained why Ryan moved so easily in the station's standard gravity. For him, it felt light. The atmosphere was another shock. Earth had oxygen levels that most species found dangerous. Too much oxygen could cause problems for Kalari. It could damage their lungs over time. But humans needed it. Their bodies ran hot and fast, burning through energy quickly. They needed all that oxygen to fuel their systems. Then there were the predators. Earth had so many. Big cats that could run faster than most vehicles. Bears that could tear apart metal. Sharks in the oceans that were basically swimming killing machines. Snakes with venom that could drop a large animal in minutes. Spiders, scorpions, jellyfish, crocodiles. The list went on. And humans weren't even the biggest predators on their own planet. They were relatively small, weak compared to the other large animals. They couldn't run as fast as the big cats, couldn't fight as well as the bears, didn't have natural armor or venom or claws, but somehow they became the dominant species anyway. The answer was in their adaptability. Humans were persistent hunters. They could track prey for days, following it until it collapsed from exhaustion. They made tools. They worked in groups. They learned and taught each other. Most importantly, they never gave up. Even when they should have. Lyra found records of human history. They had survived ice ages, droughts, floods, volcanic eruptions, plagues that killed millions. They kept going. They adapted. They found ways to survive in deserts, in frozen wastelands, in jungles, in mountains. There was almost nowhere on Earth where humans couldn't learn to live. She also found information about human food. It was disturbing. They ate things that would horrify most species. Animals that were still alive in some cases. Fermented foods that were technically rotting. Aged cheeses covered in mold. Fish that had been buried underground for months. Food so spicy they caused physical pain. There was even a section about foods that could kill humans if prepared wrong. But they ate them anyway. The pufferfish Ryan mentioned, cassava root that contained cyanide, kidney beans that were toxic when raw, mushrooms that required expert knowledge to identify safely. Humans looked at poisonous foods and thought about how to make them safe enough to eat. The most shocking discovery was about human entertainment. They did dangerous things for fun. They jumped out of aircraft with only a piece of fabric to slow their fall. They climbed mountains that killed people regularly. They dove deep underwater where the pressure could crush them. They raced vehicles at speeds that would be fatal if they crashed. They did all of this voluntarily. For enjoyment. Lyra sat back in her chair, overwhelmed. This was too much information. Too much to process. Humans were so different from everything she knew. The Kalari evolved on a safe world. Plenty of food. Few predators. Mild climate. They never needed to develop the survival skills humans had. They never needed to become dangerous themselves. Ryan came to check on her. He saw all the files she had open about Earth. He asked if she was researching humans now instead of other predators. Lyra admitted she was. She wanted to understand. How did humans become like this? How did they survive on such a terrible world? Ryan sat down. He thought about the question for a while. Then he said he didn't think Earth was terrible. It was just home. Yes, there were dangerous things, but there was also beauty, amazing places, incredible diversity. Humans learned to appreciate both the danger and the wonder. Maybe that's what made them who they were. He told her about growing up on Earth, about hiking in the mountains, swimming in the ocean, watching storms roll in across the plains, seeing wildlife in their natural habitats. about camping under the stars, cooking food over an open fire, the smell of rain on dry ground, the feeling of sun on your skin, all the things that made Earth worth living on despite the dangers. Lyra asked about the fear. Weren't humans afraid of all the things that could kill them? Ryan shrugged. Sure, sometimes. Fear was useful. It kept you alert, made you careful, but you couldn't let fear stop you from living. You respected the danger, learned to handle it, then kept moving forward. That's what humans did. He showed her pictures on his data pad. Earth landscapes, mountains, oceans, forests, deserts, they were beautiful. Lyra had to admit that. Different from her homeworld, but beautiful in their own way. She started to understand. Humans didn't just survive Earth, they loved it. They were proud of coming from there. Over the next few days, their conversations continued. Ryan told her more about human culture, about sports where people competed physically, about art and music, about exploration and discovery, about always wanting to see what was over the next hill, around the next corner, on the next planet. He also shared more human food with her, nothing as extreme as Vorath meat. Just simple things from Earth, dried fruit, nuts, some kind of bread. Lyra tried small amounts. Some of it was good. The bread was especially nice. Soft and filling. Ryan seemed happy that she was willing to try. Ryan continued to eat the Vorath meat over the next week. He had taken a lot from that creature, and he didn't want it to go to waste. Each time he cooked it, Lyra watched. She still couldn't believe it was possible. But the evidence was clear. Ryan was fine. Better than fine. He had more energy than before. The protein was good for him, he explained. Lyra started taking notes about Ryan himself. Not just about humans in general, but about this specific human. How he moved, how he solved problems, how he approached danger. He was remarkably calm in stressful situations. When ship systems had a minor malfunction, he fixed it without panicking. When navigation got tricky through some debris fields, he maneuvered carefully but confidently. She realized Ryan was a good example of human traits. Not the strongest human, probably. Not the smartest. Just average. But even an average human was impressive compared to most species. That adaptability, that resilience, that ability to keep going no matter what, it came standard with being human. One evening, Lyra asked Ryan why he became a cargo hauler. Why travel through dangerous space alone? Ryan said he liked the freedom. Nobody telling him what to do. He could choose his jobs, choose his routes, help people who needed things moved. Sometimes those people were desperate. Sometimes they were criminals. Ryan didn't judge. He just did his job. He also liked seeing new places, meeting new species, learning new things. Space was big and full of wonders. He wanted to see as much as possible before he died. That was a very human attitude, Lyra thought. Always moving. Always exploring. Never satisfied with staying in one place. They would reach the Thorian Nebula in 2 more days. Lyra felt different now than when they started this trip. She had learned so much. Not just facts and data, but real understanding. Humans weren't monsters. They weren't trying to be scary or intimidating. They were just products of their environment. Earth made them tough because they had to be tough to survive. And now they were out in the galaxy, sharing that toughness, showing other species what was possible, making the impossible look easy, like eating a Vorath, like treating the deadliest predator in known space as lunch, because when you came from Earth, everything else seemed manageable by comparison. Lyra looked at her research notes. Her original project about predator species seemed less important now. She had discovered something more valuable. She had learned about the most successful predator species in the galaxy, the one that didn't look dangerous at first glance, the one that smiled while doing impossible things, the one that called a death world home and missed it. Humans were going to change the galaxy. Lyra was sure of that now. Maybe not through conquest or war, just through being themselves, through showing everyone else what adaptability really meant, through eating things that shouldn't be eaten, through going places others feared, through never giving up, no matter what. The galaxy was about to learn what Earth already knew. When everything is trying to kill you, you either die or you become very, very good at surviving. Humans chose the second option. And now they were here, among the stars, ready to show everyone else how it was done. The Thorian Nebula appeared on their screens like a massive cloud of purple and blue gas. It was beautiful and deadly. The nebula was home to some of the most dangerous creatures in the sector. That's why Lyra came here. That's why her research focused on this region. Most xenobiologists studied predators from safe observation posts. Lyra wanted to get closer. Ryan guided the wanderer into the nebula carefully. The gas clouds interfered with sensors. Navigation was tricky. They had to move slowly, watching for obstacles and unusual readings. After 6 hours of careful flying, they found a good location. A small moon on the edge of the nebula, stable gravity, thin atmosphere but breathable with suits. Perfect for a temporary base, they landed and set up camp. Ryan had done this before with other researchers. He knew the routine. Set up the habitat dome, establish the sensor perimeter, test all the safety equipment, make sure communications worked. It took them a full day to prepare everything properly. Lyra's plan was to spend 3 months here, 3 months studying the local predator species, documenting their behavior, taking samples when possible. Ryan offered to stay and help. His rate was fair, and he admitted the nebula intrigued him. He had never spent much time here. It would be interesting. Their first week was spent mapping the area and identifying species. The nebula was full of life, strange creatures that had adapted to the unique environment. Some hunted in the gas clouds. Others lived on the moons and asteroids. Many were dangerous. Several were deadly. They encountered a shadow worm on day 8. It was massive, at least 40 feet long. Its body could phase through solid matter. Its touch caused instant tissue death. 3 research teams had died studying these creatures. Lyra wanted to observe one but had planned to do it from maximum safe distance with drones. Ryan suggested they get closer. Not too close, but closer than the standard protocols recommended. He said he had dealt with phase-capable creatures before. You just needed to watch for the tells before they shifted. They gave off a specific energy signature right before phasing. If you knew what to look for, you could avoid them. Lyra was nervous but agreed. They approached to within 50 meters. The shadow worm noticed them but didn't attack. It seemed curious more than aggressive. Ryan was right about the energy signature. His sensors picked it up clearly. When the creature started to phase, they backed away. The worm lost interest and moved on. Lyra got more data in that one encounter than most researchers collected in months. Clear video, energy readings, behavioral observations. It was incredible, and only possible because Ryan knew how to approach danger properly. He respected it but didn't let fear stop him from getting close enough to learn. Over the next weeks, they found more creatures. Crystal spiders whose webs could cut through metal, gas jellies that floated through the nebula clouds and paralyzed prey with electric shocks, stone borers that tunneled through asteroids hunting for minerals, and occasionally unlucky miners. Each species was dangerous in its own way. Each species taught Lyra something new. But she was learning more than just xenobiology. She was learning the human approach to danger. Ryan taught her to read situations better, to trust her instincts, to know when to advance and when to retreat, to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. These were skills his species developed over millions of years, skills that kept them alive on Earth. One day, they were observing a pack of crystal spiders when one approached their position. It was large, nearly 6 feet across. Its legs moved silently across the rocky ground. Ryan told Lyra to stay calm and still. The spider came within 10 feet. It seemed to study them with its multiple eyes. Lyra's heart was racing. The spider's fangs were as long as her fingers. One bite would kill her in seconds. But Ryan stood relaxed, watching the creature with interest. After a minute, the spider turned and left. Ryan explained that it was checking if they were food or threat. When they didn't act like prey or challenge it, the spider decided they weren't interesting. Lyra realized something important that day. Ryan wasn't fearless. He was scared of the spider too. She could see it in the way he held himself. The slight tension in his muscles, the way his hand stayed near his weapon, but he was scared and stayed calm anyway. That was the difference. Fear didn't control him. He used it as information. The weeks passed quickly. Lyra's research exceeded all her expectations. She had data that would make her career, observations that no one else had managed to collect. All because she had a human helping her, someone who understood predators from both sides, someone who knew how to survive in dangerous places. One evening, near the end of their 3rd month, Ryan cooked dinner. He had saved some of the Vorath meat. He said this was the last of it. He wanted to finish it before they left. Lyra watched him prepare it the same way he had before. Grilled, seasoned, cooked until it was charred on the outside. Then he did something unexpected. He cut a very small piece and offered it to her again. Just a taste. She had learned so much about danger these past months. Maybe she could learn this too. Lyra surprised herself by accepting. The piece was tiny. Barely a bite. She put it in her mouth carefully. The taste was strong, gamey, strange. Not pleasant exactly, but not terrible either. She chewed slowly, swallowed, waited. Nothing happened. Her stomach didn't immediately reject it. Her throat didn't close up. She was fine, Ryan smiled. See, not so bad. Lyra admitted it wasn't. She wouldn't want more, but that one bite didn't kill her. Ryan explained that the cooking process broke down most of the dangerous compounds. What was left was actually pretty nutritious. High protein, good amino acids. The Vorath evolved to be poisonous, but fire was a great equalizer. That night, Lyra thought about everything she had learned. She came to the Thorian Nebula to study predators. She succeeded in that, but she also studied something else. She studied what it meant to be human, what it meant to come from Earth, what it meant to face danger and keep moving forward. When they returned to Frontier Station 3 months later, Lyra had changed. She was more confident, less afraid. She had learned to calculate risks instead of just avoiding them. She had learned that danger could be managed if you understood it. These were human lessons. She submitted her research to the Galactic Council. The data was impressive, but she also submitted a special report about humans, about their capabilities, about what made them unique, about why other species should work with humans instead of fearing them. The report included video of Ryan eating Vorath meat. That video became famous in xenobiological circles. The council debated for months. Finally, they made a decision. Humans would be allowed into restricted zones previously considered too dangerous. They would serve as guides and protectors for research teams. They would help explore regions others feared. It was only logical. If humans could eat Vorath, they could probably handle most other dangers too. Lyra kept in touch with Ryan. She hired him for 2 more research expeditions over the next 3 years. Each time she learned more. Each time she became a better scientist. Each time she was grateful for his help. She also became something of an expert on humans. She gave lectures about them at universities, explained their biology, their psychology, their culture. She helped other species understand why humans were the way they were, why they looked at danger differently, why they never gave up, why they ate things that seemed impossible to eat. Years later, when Lyra was asked what she had learned from her time with Ryan, she thought carefully before answering. She learned that humans weren't scary because they were aggressive or violent. They were remarkable because they came from a world that tested them constantly, a world that made them adapt or die. They chose to adapt. She learned that the most dangerous predator in the galaxy wasn't the Vorath or the Shadow Worm or any of the creatures she studied. It was the species that looked at all those creatures and figured out how to survive them, how to hunt them, how to eat them. The species that turned every challenge into an opportunity. She learned that when you come from a death world, the rest of the universe doesn't seem quite so dangerous. And when you can turn the galaxy's deadliest predator into lunch, well, that changes everything. That was the human way. Face the fear. Understand the danger, then keep moving forward with a smile. Ryan was still out there somewhere in the galaxy, still hauling cargo, still exploring, still cooking interesting meals from creatures that others feared, still being human in a galaxy that was slowly learning what that really meant. And somewhere, on every station and planet he visited, people would hear about the human who ate a Vorath. The story would spread. Other species would shake their heads in disbelief. They would say it was impossible. But the evidence was there. The video existed, and more importantly, the human existed, walking proof that Earth produced something the galaxy had never seen before. Lyra often thought back to that first meal on the Wanderer. The moment she stood frozen watching Ryan eat the impossible, that moment changed her life. It showed her that limits were often just lack of imagination, that danger was relative, that what seemed impossible to one species might be Tuesday lunch for another. The galaxy was a different place now. Humans were spreading through it, showing everyone else new ways to think, new ways to approach problems, new ways to survive. They didn't do it through conquest. They